back, everybody, to the Skullcast, where we have our two brothers who happen to be Vikings fans. My name is Asher Whitmer, and my brother Christopher Whitmer. We're here on the morning after the presidential election. So yesterday was a big day in the USA, voting on who is elected. Looks like Donald Trump has it. I mean, he's given a victory speech, I think, already. He has definitely gotten the most electoral votes, even though I think a lot of votes are still being counted.
Yeah.
We also, here in Colorado, woke up to a blanket of snow outside, and it's still snowing. It's supposed to snow for a couple of days, so kind of fun morning for the kids. Yeah. We are back. This is week 9 in review, and just in full transparency, this is very much still a hobby for Christopher and I. And last week, the last couple weeks, I've been pretty swamped with work, so we had enough time to record. I did not have enough time to edit and upload the video, so if you are watching this, it's very likely that you have not seen our video from week 8, reviewing week 8 and going into week 9. So, but if you wonder about our picks and everything, want accountability for us, you can go ahead and watch that one after you're done with this one, or you can hit pause on this one, go back and watch that, and then come watch this, whatever. But looking forward, hopefully be able to get this one out before the Thursday night game tomorrow. But yeah, we had week 9 on Sunday, well, Thursday, Sunday, Monday. Christopher, what are kind of your recap of week 9?
Ooh, I was relieved and frustrated by the Vikings game Sunday night. Saquon Barkley had one of the most amazing physical feats I've seen, possibly in any sport, during like mid game, like just talking about like a team sport, just mid game. He did this incredible juke, which was enough I was like, whoa, that was incredible. And then he backwards hurled over a defender, and yeah, that was amazing.
Yeah. Sorry, can I interrupt you a little bit?
Yeah, go ahead.
Just jump in. I think that's the thing that's so amazing about that move was the juke before was good, like just amazing in and of itself. And we've seen, I cannot remember the guy. He was running back for the Jets way back, I want to say like 2007-ish, maybe 2008. And he somersaulted over a defender, landed on his back, and popped up and ran in for a touchdown. Do you remember seeing that at all?
It rings a bell.
And it was like a 50-yard run. It ended up being a really big run. That was probably before. Obviously, we've seen Josh Allen like hurdle people, or even Derrick Henry. But as far as just like all that went involved in the play, that was probably the biggest play I had seen before the Saquon. But the Saquon one definitely trumps it.
I'm looking up who you might be talking about.
I want to say his last name was Thomas, but I would have to look. Oh, I just remember what I remember about him is that year in fantasy football, my main running back got injured. I don't even remember who it was. Would it have been AP back then? I don't know. And so I picked up this guy who wasn't like, it's not like he had been having a great career, but he ended up having a really good year. Pretty sure it was for the Jets. And
was it Jerome Simpson flips over a defender and sticks the landing for a touchdown?
God, that name does not sound familiar, but I don't. Maybe is that a Jets running back?
No, he was I think a wide receiver for the Bengals.
Oh, you're saying when he jumped into that one when he flipped over into the end zone?
Yeah, I would have remembered it was that other
Ocho
Long time.
Cinco.
No, just recently retired. I cannot think of his name. Um, he had an amazing hurdle one time over somebody.
I don't know. Let's not take up time here now, but like I just I've always remembered that play as just like, oh wow, like that was just amazing. It was a guy that
Yeah,
wasn't like I don't even know that he went on to have that successful of a career,
yeah,
but it was a pretty cool feat in the game.
yeah.
But definitely hurdling over somebody backward after a pretty amazing juke is
He's incredible. Yep.
an
Um,
incredible instincts and athleticism. Like to even he probably didn't think about it. He just did it. Like he's like angling back. Somebody's coming. What do I do?
it's
Just
like
jump.
instant. Just jump over, spread your feet. I think
Yeah.
kind of a summarizing thought, other than like the Saquon jump and the Vikings, you know, finally beating the Colts. Um, it seems at this point in the season, number one, the season just seems like a mess. It's just like no team can necessarily define itself, other than it seems inevitable because of just like the squishiness of the season thus far, that the Lions and the Chiefs are going to play each other in the Super Bowl. Like they just seem, I don't know how the Chiefs do it, but they're 8-0. That's incredible. And the Lions just seem unbeatable.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's definitely, I mean, I would say the Lions beating Green Bay like they did is so they squeaked out a win against Minnesota. That kind of anchored them as the best team in the NFC. But I walked away from that saying they're gettable. The Lions like Green Bay was never in the game. And not only
Yeah.
that, yesterday they pulled off a trade to get Zadarius Smith, so they make their defense even better. Yeah, I mean it's Super Bowl or bust for sure for them. Which
Yeah.
is kind of sad. Yeah, I guess maybe there's a chance Hutchinson could be back for the Super Bowl. Some people say that. I think
Yeah, I heard that.
that's hard to imagine with his injury, but
Yeah.
yeah, I think the maybe I'll zero in a little bit. Week 9, a lot of it went kind of how I thought. We'll look at that in a moment. My record was 14-2. I mean 13-2. Um, I was surprised when I hopped on after we had meal at church on Sunday, and so most of the first round of games were done by the time we got home. And when I came on, Dolphins were actually ahead of the Bills, which kind of surprised me a little bit. So I was surprised that they were as close to the Bills as they are, and just how like I definitely think this season has proven Tua's worth money.
Yeah.
Whether he's ever going to win a Super Bowl, I don't know.
Yeah.
Like I don't follow the Dolphins enough to be able to critique like their scheming is bad or it's their defense is really bad or whatever.
Yeah.
But their offense looks entirely different with Tua there than opposed. And obviously they didn't really have good backups, so maybe that's kind of on them as well. I I had bought into the Broncos defense by week 9 to the point where I had San Francisco defense in fantasy and they were on a bye, so I dropped them and picked up the Broncos. And the Broncos had the worst week of the season so far. They were trounced by the Ravens. And so I expected, well, first of all, I was very apprehensive about how legitimately good the Broncos are. But then their defense has been fairly solid and whatever. That
Yeah.
in fantasy, they're actually heading into week 9, they were the best defensive team above the Vikings. So I thought they would be a good pick, but they got absolutely trounced. And obviously, the Ravens are a really good offense, but again, some more ammo for my offense is more important than an elite defense.
Mm.
Were you going to say something?
No, I actually, if you heard me guess, I just realized I was looking at the games here. The Ravens have a different logo than I remembered on NFL.com. And it's like got like red eyes. I've never seen that before.
Yeah, I noticed that too. The Ravens and Green Bay. Green Bay has their GB logo has been looking different than what I remember. You're on
Interesting.
NFL.com?
Yeah, I'm just looking at last week's games and overview.
I'm trying to think where I saw the Green Bay logo.
Their
Do you know what I'm
jerseys.
talking about? Like by their GB?
I'm not sure. I know like their official logo is just like that the G. Um
Yeah. No, I've seen it different places. I'm trying to think where I've seen it. Where Green Bay is listed, and it's just like it's the Green Bay colors with a GB. Um,
Interesting. Yeah, apparently this is an
I just
official
hadn't seen it.
one of the four official emblems of the Ravens. It's like a front facing bird with his mouth open and red
Yeah,
eyes.
yeah, I saw that too. I was like, oh, I didn't realize that was a.
I like Green Bay's jersey this past week.
Yeah,
It's not something I usually say. I think their jerseys are usually
they're they're an iconic team, classic team. You
yeah,
have to kind of give that just like
yeah.
give them their
Packers.
flowers.
Packers.
Yeah, I think I like when I look at the Vikings game. I wasn't surprised to see them win.
Yeah.
I didn't watch. I missed a lot of the game,
Yeah.
so I didn't get to watch it live. Just like what I would track it, the game. I don't know what you call it, like the game day tracker on the NFL app,
Hmm.
and I was like, man, they had 0 sacks heading into the fourth quarter, and maybe 1 tackle for loss, and so I thought this game must just be a mess, and you were messaging some of the stuff, so the
Yeah.
strip sack, fumble, and different stuff. I was like, this just must be one messy offensive game. Looking at the game later and then hearing people talk about it, I think the Vikings actually did really good. It was a good bounce back game for their defense in shutting offense down. But I do think, like Darnold had 3 turnovers, also had 3 touchdowns. I think that's
Yeah.
probably the Darnold
Yeah.
that is.
Yeah.
And
And I mean, how like the thing about Darnold is like guys like Jordan Love, which maybe by the end of the season he'll be more people will have a more realistic view of him. But it's like, is Love really that much better than Darnold? Um, I just think Darnold has a reputation that precedes him, particularly because, Monday Night Football, however many years ago, picked him up saying, I'm seeing ghosts. And so I think he's become kind of a meme. Um,
yeah,
and so it's like, I mean, even Brett Favre would like throw a ton of interceptions and then win the game. Um,
yeah,
and so there's a degree to which it's like, all right, like this is not who I want as my franchise quarterback going forward necessarily, but I'll take it if he wins games, you know.
yeah, yeah. And I think you're definitely right. There's definitely a Darnold effect. People think he's going to turn into a pumpkin. There's also, because I was looking at numbers comparing him. I think I was comparing Baker Mayfield. I was looking at him and Kirk Cousins. They're very similar. Darnold's significantly cheaper. And I would also say I think Darnold takes better shots downfield than Cousins does. So, like, personally, I would rather have that, especially with some of the weapons that the Vikings have. But then, like, compared to a lot of the other, he's up there in touchdown passes. He's got a similar amount of interceptions thrown. He started the season so hot that now kind of where he's at now, it's like, oh, it feels like he's falling apart. It's kind of a back to the mean in a sense. But like you
Mhm.
said, I don't know that it's actually that much worse than some other quarterbacks that people look at and think are credible, like franchise quarterbacks. And so, yeah, I don't want him. Like, I look forward to see what McCarthy does next year with
Yeah.
O'Connell's tutelage. But um, I think Darnold. Sorry, can you hear my shouting?
Okay.
Pardon the kids. They just came in from outside. Now they're learning how to solve conflict. Yeah, I think Darnold's who he is going to be, but neither do I think it's. I don't think it deserves the criticism, and I also think if it was anybody more established than Darnold, some of these fouls would most certainly be getting called on him.
Yeah.
It's starting to drive me nuts.
Yeah. And it's interesting people who are noticing it too. If you watch Twitter as they happen, and like the people who are like, it just seems like it's enshrined in the rule book that you can punch Darnold in the head or grab his face mask and they won't call it. And apparently also the Chargers have been complaining about some calls that Herbert has been getting.
Yeah, I saw that.
Which is interesting. Yeah. Yeah, I
I
don't know.
think, like, I don't know, to believe the best, I don't know that there's like this conspiracy where refs are going to call things. Some people think Mahomes just has the refs in his back pocket.
Yeah.
I don't think it's that way. I think it's that there's like this subconscious, a guy like Mahomes or Burrow or Stafford or Rodgers or whatever, they're more established. There's a lot more just kind of a natural attention onto what is happening with them because you're gonna they're gonna make a play, and so even the refs are more observant and apparent to see what's happening. And I think that calls that they get, although Rodgers, to his credit, actually said that the one roughing the passer call was not a roughing the passer.
Yeah.
I think the roughing the passer calls are some of the more like you got to let defensive guys play.
Yeah.
But for instance, Mahomes, kind of classic in the playoffs a few years ago, Cincinnati guy hits him, lays him out in after he had stepped out of bounds or whatever. Like, I think I would want that called on my QB. I would want some of these calls being called on my QB. I just want them with Darnold as well. Like, and I think it could be that there's just kind of this natural, like, not expecting him to make plays or kind of hang in. You go back to the Rams game where he's in the end zone for a safety. Like, I think everybody thought the game was over then. Like, and I think the refs probably thought the game was over. So there's just not an attentiveness to what's going on. So, I mean, that's kind of my way of believing the best about all of this. But there's definitely, I don't think it's even a matter of like if that was Mahomes, it would have been called. I think if that was Jordan Love, if that was Jared Goff, or like any more established QB than Darnold, the refs would have called that.
What? And I'm like, so I've often thought about it. I remember thinking about this when I was younger too. Like, there's only like 7 refs on the field. Like, how in the world can you have eyes, number one, on every single player? You can't. And so they focus on where the ball is, in certain other, areas where they try to keep their eyes, but like all the hands, all the movements, like how in the world are you looking at everything right at the same time? And we talk about how fast the game is when you're in person, just like how fast everything goes, and I get it that this is your part-time job, 6 months out of the year, and so be good at it. But excuse me, but So I have what I'm saying, I guess, is I have empathy for the refs. What I don't understand is why the NFL just won't figure out a good way to adjust a call in real time. I think the XFL, the first of the new iteration of the XFL, back in 2020, the one that got shut down by the pandemic, had a really good system where there was someone with an Xbox controller who would immediately, certain calls would just immediately get checked live, and on TV you could watch their thought process. They had a mic, and they would show what they're replaying, and then they would go call down and adjust the call in person. That they would, they had a communication with the refs on the field. I don't know, and I think the NFL has that because they talk about you know the review assist or whatever, it's replay assist. I don't know why you can't integrate that better. I get the idea that the NFL doesn't want like a late flag coming in from nowhere, especially the fans that are in the stadium. They're maybe not privy to everything that's happening on TV. They don't maybe have quite the same replays, and so like there's this weird. It's gonna feel even more conspiratorial if you get a touchdown and then like 2 minutes later there's a flag thrown that takes away the touchdown. You're gonna be like, oh, that went in Kansas City's favor. Of course they're rigging it. But
Yeah.
there's gotta be a way to do like a rapid response, like, no, that was a face mask, throw the flag. And it's like 30
Yeah.
seconds.
I 100% agree with you. I think, especially the face mask one in LA, we have picture still
Yeah,
footage of the ref looking right at it. Like,
yeah,
how did you miss that? Like, that
yeah,
kind of baffles me. But I think you're right. Like, it's faster. There's not many refs. And 100% agree. Like, somehow integrate the technology better that is there, because it was clear and obvious to
yeah.
everybody watching.
Luke Brown was saying that they need he was blaming, I don't know how serious he was about this, but he was kind of blaming some of it on the downfall of the Vikings having dark face masks, which kind of makes sense, but also doesn't really make sense because
Interesting.
don't most
I
don't
know.
most
Is
players
it
use
different than
white?
others?
I would have never really paid attention to it. Um, Let me see. So like the New York Jets have a white face mask. Um,
I mean, the Vikings have a white kind, but yeah, they do
is
have.
it, not is it face mask? Face. What's the word?
But you're
What's
saying most
yeah.
players have white gloves.
Yeah, well, I need to look that up a little bit. It was an interesting thing of like, oh, if you just change your equipment, maybe you get a better call. I know that's why like
Raven
some people will try to wear, some defenders will try to wear gloves that match their opponent's jersey so that
jersey, yeah.
they don't get as many cold calls and stuff.
Ravens have a black. They have a very dark helmet, black helmet, and a black face mask. I tell you what, I learned the value of a face mask. We were playing flag football on Sunday,
Ooh, did you get hit in the
and the
face?
last play of the game, I was playing on the line, which I am not a lineman, but that just tells you the size of our team. And I got like punked right in the
Ooh.
nose. And as of this morning, I still can't blow my nose without my front teeth hurting.
Oh,
It's,
did you go and get it checked out?
I mean, I should get it checked out just in case it's displaced and it's not like visibly deformed. I don't know that they do a whole lot for a broken nose other than if it's displaced, they'll reset it. But anyway, let's move into just take a quick look at our record in our picks, and then I don't know how many of you watching are familiar with the Mahomes Mountain that Nick Wright puts out each week. Christopher and I, we enjoy the show. The first things first, love the chemistry of the show and stuff. We often uh, argue with, debate their picks and their ideas. I actually thought this version of Mahomes Mountain was probably Nick's most objective version, which his fellow, I was going to say cast members. What do you call it when it's a show?
Cast members, yeah.
His fellow cast members also talked about. But let's first, let me share it. Let's look at the record for week 9. So just in short, both of us had solid weeks. You went 12-3. I got you with the Saints. Panthers actually pulled off the win. So your total record is 73-48. Mine is 78-43. I'm ahead of you by 5 games. Now, if you're just joining us, this is somewhat of a flawed picks because we did not pick for week 1. We started this show after week 1. So this is week 2 and beyond. I guess, should we just go into, we could go down and pick for this coming week, since that's also in this document, and then end with critiquing Mahomes Mountain. Should we do that, or what do you want to do?
Sure, yeah, let's do that.
Improvise on the fly here. Yeah, so we'll do the week 10 picks, and I just copied and pasted and forgot to put it down appropriately. So Cincinnati at Baltimore, what are your picks for that? Or what's your
Baltimore.
pick? I agree. What about Giants? That says Giants versus Carolina. I think the Giants are at Carolina.
Ooh, we look.
Yeah, Giants are at Carolina. That's very fitting for on air.
NFL.com says versus Carolina.
No, that Giants are at Carolina. Where are you seeing that?
NFL.com.
The schedule on the Google has
November 10th.
Giants at Carolina. Huh?
November 10th.
Yeah.
It has Patriots at Chicago, Giants versus Carolina. But I'm wondering,
look at this.
They are in Germany.
No, Christopher, NFL.com has Giants at Carolina.
Asher, I'm on NFL.com. It's saying versus, but
so am I right now.
But they're in Germany.
Christopher, Giants are listed on top. That means they're at Carolina.
Okay. I think we're both right, but also I'm not lying. I'm saying it's versus. It's saying versus. I'm also saying they're in Germany. So Giants might be home.
No, Giants are listed as the away team. That's the point I'm making.
Okay,
whatever. On NFL.com, on Google, Giants are listed as the away team.
You see that?
Sorry, I'm not on your. That's so bizarre. I'm gonna stop sharing this, and I'll show you what I'm seeing.
I believe you. I'm not denying it. I'm also saying that they are in Germany, and so neither of them are technically home, and so that might be.
Oh. But I'm the reason this is throwing me up is we've had 3 overseas games so far, and that, like, where I go, whether it's this and it, like right here, you can see Giants are listed on top.
Yeah.
like the Vikings were listed as the home team. It was a
Yeah,
Viking. It
they'll
was
have.
Jets at Vikings,
Yeah,
and then in parentheses it said in London or whatever.
interesting. Yeah, I they'll they usually have a home team, and they're trying to do a lot better of a job at like like the Vikings took over their Gallhorn and had their announcers and stuff.
Yeah.
Um,
All of this does raise, because I was going to pick the Panthers because they're home again. But I think my rationale completely falls apart since they are overseas. I had not thought about that until we have this little argument,
yeah,
and
the
you
argument
remind me they're
was
in Germany. Who are you picking?
I picked the Giants.
I think I'll actually go with you. Yeah, I think we'll both pick Giants.
Excuse me.
I do think they're equal enough that I think if Carolina was truly at home, they would win. Can you hear me moving my mic? I'm trying to get my mic out of the way,
Very
but
faintly.
it's my boom thing is dying, or I need to tighten some screws or something because it doesn't stay where I want it to stay. Okay, New England at Chicago.
Um, Chicago.
Yeah. What do you think of things that are going on with like DJ Moore walking off the field? Did you hear his? He was on a podcast or something, and they asked him. Somebody asked. He was doing an interview. Somebody asked him if Eberflus has lost the
Oh,
the locker room, and he said, "I want to say no," and then he basically went in to just kind of a general like what Eberflus is telling them, and
um, I don't really know. I didn't see that, and I haven't been privy to those discussions. I wouldn't be surprised. I mean, Eberflus is not an inspiring person. um, and I sometimes just don't understand like NFL teams like for a lot of reasons. I think we talked about this with like just teams in general. Like, what were people thinking when they thought that they were going to be these incredible teams this year? But also, I feel that way about some coaches. Like, Joe Judge with the Giants, Matt Rule with the Panthers, Eberflus, um, like some of these guys. It feels like I
yeah,
couldn't have predicted every NFL coaching flop, but I definitely feel like those guys just don't inspire me. Like I just look at them and I'm not inspired.
yeah,
Not that looking at someone you necessarily always feel inspired. Like Kevin O'Connell doesn't look inspiring, but when you start to hear him talk, he has a plan, he has purpose, he's been there, he has the guys as like um
Wait, wait a second. If Kevin O'Connell doesn't look inspiring, who looks inspiring?
well I guess
Andy Reid sure doesn't look inspiring.
no, you're right. And that's the absurdity of saying someone looks inspiring. I think I'm more making a rhetorical point that like just nothing about some of those coaches. I was just like, why did you pick this person?
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah,
Eberflus, Eberflus, I think could have been inspiring, but like just combined with being a defensive head coach, especially when what you're needing is offensive help. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I several things. I never expected Chicago. I Let me back up. I never expected for Caleb to come in and save Chicago the first year.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
think it was ridiculous the pressure. Have you heard that? I just saw it, so I'm not sure how old it's been, but Tom Brady was at some event that he was talking about colleges today versus colleges back when he was young, and the development of QBs, and then the way that we throw QBs in
Oh yeah,
year one as opposed to developing them further. And
I,
have you heard that?
I saw it when it happened. I saw a clip of it.
When was it? How old is that? I
Oh,
hadn't seen it
it was.
before.
I want to say the summertime. He was. I think he was. I forget. I forget exactly what was happening, but yeah, I want to say I saw it over summertime. And my memory was that it had happened like the week of when I saw it.
Oh, okay. I like that's been my big thing. Like,
Yeah,
why, when I was younger following football and stuff, like rookie QBs did not come in and start right away. Like, I was gonna say Tom Brady. Manning. Peyton Manning was somewhat of a rarity to come in
yeah,
and have a rookie season, and he was horrible that rookie season.
yeah,
And I know, like some people I talk with are like, yeah, but Manning says that was the best thing for his career, and I'm just like, there, like we have so much evidence that that kind of a start to rookie seasons can shaft the rookie player. We don't have too
yeah,
many Manning stories where they have a really bad year one and then turn it around and become a Hall of Fame QB.
yeah. Well, not everyone's a Manning. Like,
Yeah. Like
um,
clearly Daniels is ready to play. So
right.
so I don't have a problem with Washington throwing him in there. But why don't we have better development and prepping for like let's get them
Yeah,
to a level before we just expect them to come and carry our franchise. I think that's unfair to Caleb.
yeah, yeah. I agree.
And then on top of that, I I continued. I asked this all summer between you and I. Obviously, or
I've
anybody
been
watching this
asking.
didn't know that. You'll just have to take my word for it. My cousins who are Chicago fans, Bears fans, they know I've been asking this. What is different about Caleb entering Chicago Bears as opposed to Justin Fields back in the day entering Chicago Bears? Justin Fields, we forget about some of the players that Justin Fields had entering in. He had a defensive
Yeah,
minded coach. It just seemed like a very similar setup. And I think the one thing my uncle pointed out was that Caleb is like when Caleb's on, he's got some really good scrambling and throwing on the run ability and stuff that
yeah,
Fields doesn't. And obviously, even we see that in Pittsburgh. Like Fields isn't the playmaker that even a 36-year-old Russ
yeah,
Wilson is.
yeah,
So I think that's a fair thing. Like Caleb, but it feels to me like everybody's hanging their hat on Caleb being so much better than Fields that all of a sudden just that they're somehow deep playoff run Super Bowl contending team. And to me, it's just been like, no, they're not. They're going to end last in the division, and you shouldn't
yeah,
feel like that's a failure. Like you introduced a potential high end. Like I think Caleb's going to be a great QB. But why do
yeah,
we expect that much this year? And then why are we expecting so much when actually very little about Chicago is different than it was with Fields? It's just the QB that's different. I mean,
yeah,
I get it. It's different people. But we forget about the playmakers Fields had around him at that time as well.
yeah.
Anyways, that was an unexpected rant. We choose Chicago. All that to say, we do choose Chicago to be the Patriots. Oh, it will be an interesting game, though. Have two rookie QBs against each other.
Yeah.
Bron- Broncos at Kansas City.
Kansas City.
Falcons at Saints.
Falcons.
I'm writing before I even know the answer because I think some of these are pretty first guess.
Pretty
Buffalo
obvious.
at Indianapolis.
Buffalo. Buffalo.
Vikings at Jacksonville.
Vikings.
Okay, this is the one that'll be interesting what you say. 49ers at Buccaneers.
Yeah, the Buccaneers just are consistently a better team. Excuse me, yawning. consistently a better team than I expect. But I think the Niners just generally have a better team. I think they're better coached, and I think they're getting healthier, whereas the Bucks are getting less healthy. So I'm gonna go with the Niners.
Yeah, I think like talk about how people drop the Vikings like a hot potato. What nobody's going to remember from this Monday night game is that if Tampa Bay had won the coin flop,
Coin flop. Yeah, that's
watch
what it
that
is. A
coin
coin flop.
flopping around. Um, they very likely could have won that game. Like
Yeah.
Mayfield was playing very well. They were
Yeah.
moving very, very well against the Chiefs. I was surprised to see them not only take the lead earlier in the game, but then come back and actually tie it the way they did. Like it was like a knife through butter, really, considering
Yep.
the defense you were playing against.
Yeah.
And so to me, I watched probably about half the game, and including the game tying drive and then overtime. That was the closest that I would say I've seen, even though I know the Cincinnati game was pretty close. Even the Ravens game was close. There were times throughout that game where I was like, the Bucks could get them. Like the Bucks might get them here, and so they're definitely better than what we give them credit for. But all that to say that I think a lot of people are underrating Purdy, underrating the 49ers, and I think the 49ers deserve the respect in the NFC that the Chiefs have in the AFC, even though I know I was thinking about that the other day. I was like, oh, I was talking to myself and I was like, the 49ers have been in so many Super Bowls in the last 6 years.
Yeah.
And I stopped and thought, I was like, actually, they've only been in 2 Super Bowls in the last 6 years. And
Into a number of
but
NFC
they've been in a
championships.
lot of NFC championship games. Yeah.
But I mean,
So
they've been
anyway,
to 3 Super Bowls in the last 12 years at least. That's
yeah, because Harbaugh had them in one. Yeah.
other than the Chiefs and the Patriots, that's probably a high. They're probably the third most Super Bowls.
Well, and even if you go back to the game the Eagles won, when the Eagles went to the Super Bowl against the Chiefs, that year San Francisco was the better team all year long. And they go into
Oh
that
yeah,
NFC championship game and were incredibly injured and beaten up.
yeah,
They were at their third or fourth QB by the end of that game.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Purdy got hurt. Yeah,
And obviously, like at the end of the day, it's okay. So you still didn't win. Forget about the injuries. You still didn't win. But I think the Niners deserve the respect of like, hey, they know how to play through adversity. They know how to deal with injuries. Who was it? I just heard was talking about. Who was that? Had called. Oh, it was the offensive coordinator for the Bucks. Had called up Sean McVay and Kyle Shanahan, I think, because they've both dealt with a lot of injuries and they know how to coach well through injuries. And I think that's just something. Don't count the Niners out. So Pittsburgh at Washington.
I'm gonna choose Pittsburgh.
Well, I told you before we started you should choose the Commanders, but I'm choosing Steelers. Tennessee at Chargers.
Chargers.
By the way, just to throw some flowers, again, the Chargers are not a team I've really taken a lot seriously. And I don't think because of the division they're in, I don't think they're going to go very far. But that is actually a pretty cool story that's developing under the radar. just how Harbaugh is turning that around. And not
Yeah.
only turning it around in the first year, doing what he does, but he actually shipped out or let go of a bunch of players that I think people thought were key. And it's like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
They're developing a pretty good team there.
Yep.
Who do you choose over the Jets or Cardinals?
Cardinals.
Are we going to be in sync the whole way
Yeah,
down
I think
here?
we're going chalk the whole way.
I'm assuming you pick Eagles over Cowboys.
Yeah. Yep.
Both pick Eagles. What about Detroit Texans?
I'm tempted to jag here because I do think the Texans. I mean, the Texans could also be frauds. Honestly, I think. But they also, I think, from what I know of them, they probably could also beat the Lions. But I don't think the Lions are getting beaten by anyone right now. So Detroit.
I think the Lions are not going to go undefeated from here on out. They're actually going to
Yeah.
have their toughest 5-game stretch to end the season.
Yeah.
I very much thought the Packers and the Texans are two teams who could get them right now in this stretch. But like you said, they're just playing hot right now. And
yeah,
I'm picking the Lions as well. Even though I do agree, I think Houston could get them.
Yeah.
Dolphins at Rams.
Rams.
Okay, we'll see how we do with that.
Rise and fall together.
There is no differentiating this week that's going to happen. So we're kind of going long here. Do you want to? Should we review Mahomes Mountain? Kind of look over it, or
yeah, you have like a list of it. I was trying to find.
Yeah, I have it right here. Do you see that?
Yeah, there you go. Perfect.
We won't, for the sake of time, we won't play his explanation of it. But so just for the record, if like Nick Wright's from Kansas City, so his team is Kansas City. They happen to be the best team in football the last, I don't know. It's fair we're looking at what a 6-year stretch here where Kansas City has over that period been the better team more times than not. So he has the Mahomes Mountain with Mahomes being the best QB. Just to like highlight some things, he is really big on Caleb. He thought the Chicago Bears and Caleb would be in the Super Bowl this year. He's also really big on Trevor Lawrence. He thought he was the next Patrick Mahomes back when he was drafted. And he's big on Dak. He's a fairly big defender of Dak.
Oh, is he?
So
I didn't know.
I mean, nobody on the show is that huge on the Cowboys. Like they're all pretty critical of the Cowboys. But he's on the show, he's a bigger defender of Dak than the other three. Like he doesn't think Dak is that great. But he's also extremely critical of Rodgers, which we share some affinity with. And he's been very critical of Darnold. So some things that stood out to me about this. Oh, he's also a big fan of Burrow, and I'll talk about that a little bit here. But so red means that he bumped them up to the next row. Down means he bumped them down from the row above. Blue means they stay the same. There's no order. It's not like Love is better than May. He just has them on a level.
Down, right?
Yeah. Red means he bumped them down. Green means he bumped them up.
Yeah.
So it stood out to me that he brings Caleb, Dak, and Lawrence all down, guys he likes, bumps Rodgers, who he very much does not like, and Darnold, who he thinks is going to turn into a pumpkin. Actually, like we're not going to play his explanation, but he actually had some decent words about Darnold. So that was kind of nice.
That's cool.
But yeah, what what's kind of your take as you look at these? There are two QBs. I'm trying to think right offhand who are off the mountain. That's why they're off.
Yeah.
Oh, it's Derek Carr and Flacco. He took them off the
No.
mountain.
Yeah. This feels probably. I haven't watched every single one of the Mahomes Mountains, and one of the reasons I don't is because it always feels just kind of arbitrary, and I don't necessarily think he's always knows what he's talking about. But um, this feels like the most accurate. I don't know what his title. He always has like titles for each level. Like this group of people is whatever.
That's the that's the that's Nick's picks.
Oh, is that he doesn't
Like
have
for the
titles?
teams. I don't recall
Okay,
seeing title. He didn't with
yeah,
this
I might
one,
be
but
thinking
yeah, I
of
don't
it too.
recall seeing.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
because he's like a quarterback away is always what Vikings were with Cousins. Um,
Yeah.
this I don't know that I really have any complaints about this. Like I think Mahomes. I mean, I think he does have a bias towards Mahomes. But Mahomes is also undefeated, and so if Mahomes starts losing, then I think his record and his stats should objectively move him down. But right now he's winning, and he's the two-time Super Bowl champion, Super Bowl MVP. Like I just don't know that you can punish someone for not playing well if they're doing the thing that you set out to do. But Allen and Lamar both seem like if Mahomes isn't the best quarterback, then it feels like it's one of those two. So it makes sense to have them on level with each other. Stafford has shown himself, especially with his wide receivers back, he's shown himself that he's brilliant, that he's still got it. Jaden has shown that even though he's a rookie, he's playing like a pro, like a veteran. Burrow, I think, has always been that way, but his team is mildly dysfunctional, and um, for some reason they always get a slow start. And then like Goff, Goff should maybe be up on at least the third level. Goff is playing very well. Um, Herbert, Hurts, and Stroud all seem like three guys who will probably one day win a Super Bowl. It makes sense that Stroud got knocked down just because his team's not playing very well right now. And then Darnold, Baker, Kyler, Cousins, Purdy all kind of feel like the same quarterback. It would maybe exception to Baker, and I think Purdy, if they start winning, could really stand out. And then I don't know. I don't know that I need to go over the last two levels, but it feels very fair to me,
Sorry, are you
especially
still
because
there?
you're limited to a
Oh.
pyramid.
Yeah. Yeah,
It's
it
it's
has to
gotta
go
be
to
like even. You can't have like
there has to
4
be
above
one
the
at
three.
top.
Yeah.
I actually like this concept as opposed to a ranking where you have like 1, 2, 3, 4. I like the fact that you can put 3
Yeah.
or 4 on the same level.
Yeah.
I I agree. I think this is so. Maybe this isn't that much of a meaningful segment here in this show.
It's
It's
weird.
meaningful to me
Yeah.
because we agree. Yeah, like I frequently disagree with his Mahomes
Yeah.
Mountains. I don't think they're very fair, a very
Yeah.
objective take. Oh, I think Mahomes deserved. And if we're going, so actually, let me just pause and say there are two things that I think it behooves him to change by the very logic that he used for keeping Mahomes on top. So
Oh.
let me explain. Because Mahomes, through the first 3-4 weeks of this season, was not a top 10
Yeah.
QB. Like he was not
Yeah.
playing that. But he kept them winning. He willed them to win. He has a history of winning. But when he talks about Burrow and why Burrow is so high, his excuse is quarterback wins don't matter. That doesn't mean anything.
Oh.
But Burrow's playing out the wazoo. Burrow's playing tremendously.
Yeah. Yeah.
When he keeps Darnold low, he never once had Darnold in the top 3 layers, even though Darnold through the first 3 weeks was the MVP of the league. But
Yeah.
his thing was, can you imagine Darnold ever winning a Super Bowl? No. And so like
Yeah.
that was his thing of holding it out. And so by that very purpose, if quarterback wins don't actually matter, then Mahomes certainly should have been down lower. And I think that Lamar probably deserves to be on top.
Yeah.
I tend to think they do matter. I think ultimately, like we just got done saying, for Vikings fans, we go back to Detroit. Like nobody's going to
Yeah.
remember how close that game was. Detroit won, so
Yeah.
they're now the best team in the NFC. Same thing with the Monday night game, Chiefs against Tampa Bay. Nobody's going to remember that if
Yeah.
Tampa Bay had won the coin flip, they very likely would have won the game. They played tit for tat the whole way to the end. So I do think wins actually do matter. I do think Mahomes deserves to be on top because he finds ways to help his team win, which is why I don't think Burrow deserves to be on the third level. I think Goff should be up there. He is helping his team win. Burrow should be down lower. I personally think Baker should be up there instead of Stroud, but I know Stroud already dropped down a level. But Baker played great. Baker played right with Mahomes, and I think he deserves a little bit more credit than what he's given here. I don't know who else. Like if you're only dropping people down one level at a time, then maybe Stroud shouldn't go down. Maybe it should be Herbert down below or something. But otherwise, yeah, I definitely agree. I think it's a pretty fair review of the quarterbacks to this point.
Yeah. Be an interesting week.
Yeah. So we got games tomorrow night. Cincinnati against Ravens. That'll be a fun game again to watch. And we'll go from there. Looking forward to it. My wife and I are taking an anniversary getaway.
Nice.
Friday night,
on
Saturday,
Sunday.
and then on Sunday. Our anniversary is on Sunday. So I don't know that I'll be watching that much football this weekend. But it'll be fun to see how things turn out.
Yeah.
Okay. Anything else to close out before we go?
No, I mean let's check back when Vikings are 10-2.
Yeah. I think they easily have a shot at going 8-2.
Yeah.
And very likely maybe 10-2. Maybe. Wouldn't it be fun? Just to fantasize a little bit. Wouldn't it be fun if Texans get what's their names? The Detroit Lions.
It would be.
I purposely said that just to egg that.
Yeah.
And you have a three-way tie between Minnesota because Green Bay's on a bye this week.
Yeah, that's right.
Green Bay, Minnesota, Detroit. Obviously, it wouldn't be a tie. Detroit's up on Minnesota. Minnesota's up on Green Bay.
Yeah, and Green Bay has 3 losses. So it would be
I keep forgetting that.
Yeah, it'd be a tie.
Green Bay is 6-3.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it would be the following week. There's no way for. Yeah, I was thinking wrong. I don't know what I'm thinking. I was thinking there was a way it could be a 3-way tie.
Well, I mean, if the Lions would lose their next 2 games and Packers would win next week and the Vikings would win 1 week and lose the next week, then it would be a 3-way tie.
Oh, but that's like several weeks out.
Do all of that.
No, I was just thinking wrong. For some reason, I was thinking this week, depending on the results, it could be a 3-way tie.
Vikings could be tied with the Lions if the Lions lose and the Vikings win.
Yeah, but if the Packers had won last week, I think that's what I was thinking. If the Packers had won last week, and then they beat the Texans, but they didn't. Yeah. So, anyways, yeah, we'll see you all next week. And if you enjoy this, go ahead and share it with other people. If you have ideas of segments for us to kind of look over or whatever, leave them in the comments and we'll do that next time. One of the things I've started doing is we have this big long episode and then break them down and release some of the segments just by themselves throughout the off days. So we can do that if you're not interested in watching the whole hour of us rambling about football. Okay, till next time.
All right. See ya.